In the last lesson, we talked about the importance of building a strong core support team. But before you go ahead and start building that core support team, I do need you to take this very first step, which is having an honest conversation with the patient about the importance of building a core support team. Now, for some of you, I realize this is going to be super easy. You're probably not worried about it. In fact, you might have already had this conversation, or you might have already started building that core support team with the patient. Awesome. I am so thrilled if you fall into that category. So feel free to go ahead and skip and go to the next lesson. But for the rest of you, this conversation may be a little awkward or uncomfortable. I totally get that. You might be worried that the patient is going to feel overwhelmed, or maybe they're going to think that you're just taking over, or maybe they're going to feel like they're losing a sense of control, which they probably already feel that about their health, right? So I get these concerns. They're totally valid feelings. This can be a very sensitive conversation, but it's also an essential one. You're going to hear time and time again, I'm going to tell you that you need to include the patient in all the decision making. Now, there are some scenarios where that's just not possible, but when it is, we need to include the patient. After all, this is their health, not yours, right? And this is one of the first steps that you need to take in including them in the conversation. So let's talk about how to navigate this conversation. That way you can ensure that you are clear, that you're being compassionate, and that you're walking into the conversation with confidence. I do want to remind you, this isn't about saying the perfect thing. It's just not possible. It's really, the focus is open communication and getting your loved one the support they deserve. The goal is to walk away feeling like you're on a united front, you have a shared plan, and trust me, in the end, you're going to feel like a much stronger advocate. Okay, so first I'm going to introduce to you some conversation starters just to get you thinking, and then I will go over a quick role play. That way you can hear everything from start to finish. I also want to point out that these conversation starters and some sample scripts are listed below in PDFs. That way, while you're watching this video, you don't have to take notes. You can just sit back, relax, listen, and absorb. All right, let's get into it. The first step we want to take is starting with empathy. That means putting yourself in the patient's shoes. So for example, you might want to say something like, I know this has been a lot, and I want to make sure we're doing the best to get you what you need. This way, you're recognizing their feelings, and you're also letting them know that they're not alone. Next, you'll also want to clearly express the intentions of a core support team. You want to clarify this is truly about their care. It's not about taking over control. It's not about overwhelming them. I would focus on the control part if you think that's an issue. If that's not going to be an issue with the patient, then maybe you don't have to address it. So for example, you could say something like, this isn't about me taking over. It's about finding ways to make this easier on both of us. And then last, you want to focus on how a support team can benefit them. And really, this is such a main focus throughout this conversation. So I've been thinking about how we might bring in a few trusted people to help support you throughout this journey. Not to replace me, but to step in with small things like organizing meals or sitting with you while I run some errands, so we can ensure you're getting the best care possible. What do you think? So I do have a couple tips for you while you're having this conversation. Number one, come to the conversation with a few ideas, not a set plan, just some ideas. If your loved one has not even thought about inviting other people into that inner circle, this may be a little overwhelming, or they might not know who to think of or where they can help. So it's good to have some starter ideas, and that way you can talk through them. Number two, even though you're coming with starter ideas, they're just that, starter ideas. It's not a set plan, so you need to be flexible. If you come in guns a-blazing with a set plan, believe me, you might really freak them out and they might be concerned. So come with some ideas, not a set plan, be flexible. And then the third tip I have for you is keep the focus on the patient and their health. Kind of already touched on this, but I want to reiterate it. This is not about you. Now, will a core support team help you? 100%. And there's no shame in taking that help and support. But it's also about getting your loved one the best care possible. In sales, we call this the WIFM. What's in it for me? So what's in it for the patient to have a core support team? You want to list those ideas. That's where you're going to come with some ideas, right? You're not going to just be flying off the seat of your pants. So remember, it's a WIFM. What's in it for them? Maintain that focus during the entire conversation. All right, so here is an example of what you could say from start to finish. And you're going to notice I'm going to check in as well along the way. We want to check in to make sure they are on board and they don't have any concerns. And if they do, that's okay. Let's just address them. Hey, so I've been thinking about how you've been feeling lately. And I know that none of this is easy. And I want to make sure I'm supporting you in the way that feels most helpful to you, not just what I think might help you. So, how would you feel about building a little support team of family and some of your good friends around us? People who can help with the little stuff like running errands, or maybe they can make some meals or take you to some appointments when I'm not able to. That way, we are getting you the care that you need and deserve. So, what do you think? Checking in, making sure that they're on board, giving you any concerns that they have, and then we're going to wrap it up. So I thought we could start by coming up with a list of the kind of support that would make things easier for us. And then after we have that list, we can come up with a few people who we think would be a good fit. So we can surround you with the people who you are most comfortable with. How do you think that sounds? Okay. End scene. So you'll see that you want to include them in the conversation, check in, and make sure they're on board and address any concerns they have. I also want to point out this is just one approach, right? It's the way I talk, but it might not be the way that you would say it. So you really need to tailor it to fit your personality and also the relationship that you have with the patient. If you by any chance anticipate pushback, I am going to give you a script for that down below. So there's one sample there. And then I also would recommend going to the module called Connecting with Healthcare Providers. In that module, you will find a lesson called Managing Conflict Like a Pro. And I do give a technique, a sales technique for managing conflict. So that may help you in this situation as well. All right, so you have two next steps. Number one, go ahead and review the conversation starters and the sample scripts below. This is going to help you to come up with some ideas on how to best approach this conversation. Number two, practice beforehand. Now, this may seem silly, practicing for a conversation with your loved one, but honestly, this is what business people do. Before they have any conversation that they feel like may be difficult or uncomfortable, they prepare. So why wouldn't we use that same technique in our personal lives to have one of the most important conversations of our life? Okay, so practicing is only going to help you walk into that conversation with more confidence. All right, so now go practice. You got this.